Ukrainian conspiracy theory that the Ukrainians were working with the Democrats. It's a conspiracy theory? Is that visitor log to the White House with George Soros as executive director from this group Antac? Is that visitor log faked? Was the fake whistleblower not there? Is that a fake too? Did that group not appear in a letter no one's denied the existence of from our embassy to George Soros funded group saying, hey, don't prosecute those guys? Did that FBI agent not work on the Manafort case? Did the Manafort case not start with the Black Ledger that now everyone agrees, every serious person, including one of Mueller's own witnesses in the case, was a hoax document? The FBI agent who, according to Solomon's report, later went and worked for Soros' funded group? What about that's a conspiracy theory? Was the prosecutor in Ukraine not fired after Joe Biden's on tape calling him be fired? The same prosecutor who's now come in public saying they were looking into George Soros' group and Hunter Biden's company where he worked when he got fired? What part of that is a conspiracy theory? Do you understand how if you're listening to the mainstream media, you are completely lost in this case? Mm-hmm. Completely. Yeah. That's part one of this. Part two is a little shorter. That's setting up how the Obama government was for sale. They clearly knew there were meetings at the White House, and the Obama government was sale to the highest bidder, and the highest bidder appears to be these Soros-funded groups at the time who were saying, leave our guys alone over there while we do our thing in Ukraine. But we still haven't answered the question, why? Why was Soros and his groups, why did they want certain people not prosecuted, but other people prosecuted? And who were those people? All right, I'm going to get to that in a minute because that's going to be part two of this. Because again, the big angle we've talked about is the do not prosecute list. We haven't talked about who he wanted prosecuted and why yet. That's critical. He was colluding with a foreign government to get this Soros group a free pass. But who were they trying to get prosecuted? Well, let's go back to this Solomon piece. And buried in the piece, you're going to see a name. This is who I think Dershowitz may be talking about. And we're always like 2-3 weeks, if not months ahead of the news cycle. You heard it here first. We'll see. Could be right, could be wrong. Either way, this is still extremely suspicious. Check this piece out. So this is a long portion of it, but it's worth, I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but Solomon says, this same memo shows Soros' organization wanted to make Ukraine a top priority starting in 2014 and planned to use Antac as its lead. They had this memo they put out, Antac, and it says Ukraine, behind-the-scenes advice and support to Ukrainian partner Antac's efforts to generate corruption litigation in Europe and the U.S. respecting state assets stolen by senior Ukrainian leaders, the memo states. The memo included a chart of Ukrainians, the Soros team. Sorry, this is the memo we're talking about in conjunction with the State Department over there. The memo includes a chart of Ukrainians the Soros team wanted to have pursued, including some with ties to Paul Manafort. This is where this gets fascinating. Senior U.S. law enforcement officials confirmed to Solomon that the early kleptocracy collaborations inside Ukraine led to highly visible U.S. actions against the oligarch Dmitry Firtash, a major target of the Soros group and Manafort. Is it Firtash? Is Dmitry Firtash the guy Alan Dershowitz is talking about that Soros was whispering in the ear of Barack Obama to have prosecuted? Ladies and gentlemen, why would this be a hydrogen bomb level explosion? Well, let's just cut to the chase. Because Firtash was a business rival of George Soros. Why does that matter? What do you mean, why does that matter? So George Soros, a liberal mega donor, is buying off the U.S. government, potentially whispering in the ear of Obama, if Firtash is the guy, to get his business rivals prosecuted? And the fallout was Donald Trump and everyone else who were spied on in the process? What a way to kill two birds with one stone, right? George Soros is liberal. Yeah. You can take out conservative Donald Trump and his campaign, and you can also knock off your business rivals at the same time. Now, what other evidence do I have that it may be Firtash that Dershowitz is talking about? Because, folks, we know Soros through a rather circuitous route. Soros' money and his groups have found their way into both the impeachment operating in Ukraine. You've seen that. I showed you that through the whole show, the do not prosecute list, staying away from ANTAC, all that stuff. That was what the Ukraine thing was all about. That's what Trump was concerned about, the corruption in Ukraine on the phone call with the Ukrainian president, the very core of the impeachment hoax, what the Democrats don't want you to see. Trump brought it up. It terrified them. So they tried to impeach him over it. They impeached him, and he was not removed from office. He was fully acquitted and exonerated. Now it's time to turn the table and look at what Trump was really concerned about. But why Firtash? Why does he matter? Because Soros, as I was just saying, through the circuitous route, has had this way of him and his group supporting the work of Fusion GPS and others. The work of Fusion GPS, paid for by Hillary, was to produce the dossier used to spy on Trump. Some of the information which came from Ukraine. Some of those same lawmakers, Ukrainian lawmakers, that appeared on the do not prosecute list. Yes. Some of the fake information used to spy on Trump team came from Ukrainians on the same do not prosecute list. The corruption Trump was concerned about in Ukraine. These people passed information to the United States in a foreign collusion scandal to get the president spied on and apparently to take out his business partners. Solomon's reporting is conclusive that he had his eyes, Soros' group, set on Firtash. Now, we know through the Open Societies Foundation that Soros' group has been funding the work of people like Dan Jones, a former Democrat staffer who worked on the Senate Intel Committee with Dianne Feinstein, who after Fusion GPS had produced their fake dossier used to spy on Trump, was still working to authenticate the fake hoax dossier that's been rebuked by everyone who's sane. So if Soros's influence and some of his groups and some of his money through circuitous means found its way to the effort to produce the fake dossier and to still to this day try to make the fake dossier appear real, even though it's a debunked, discredited hoax, who else had an interest in this guy Firtash? Let me go back to this Wall Street Journal piece from 2007, not 2017. I've used this piece often. How lobbyists help ex-Soviets woo Washington. Who is the author of this piece? Ladies and gentlemen, Glenn Simpson and his wife, Mary Jacoby. This was written in 2007. Yeah. This is the guy in Fusion GPS whose company produces the fake dossier to spy on Trump with information from Ukrainians who appear on a do not prosecute list, that our embassy in Ukraine under the Obama administration is telling the Ukrainian government, don't look at them, as they're passing information to Simpson, who's pumping it into a dossier to get them to spy on Trump, and apparently in an effort by Soros-funded groups to get them to simultaneously attack Trump and attack George Soros' political opponent, Dmitry Firtash. What do we find buried in this 2007 piece by Glenn Simpson? Shocker, folks. Simpson had an interest in Firtash, too. Was this a journalistic interest? I'm just asking. Whose interest in Firtash is this here? Here, quote from the Wall Street Journal piece. In 2003 and 2005, Mr. Firtash brokered several billion-dollar deals between Gazprom and the government of Ukraine. They netted big profits for High Rock and criticism from the U.S. ambassador to the Ukraine at the time for the deal's lack of transparency. I don't know Dmitry Firtash. He's not my business rival. I don't know if he's a good guy, bad guy, indifferent guy, don't care. I'm simply asking the question, is the real scandal here that the Obama government was for sale the entire time, and that there wasn't just a do not prosecute list to protect the people colluding with the Democrats from Ukraine to spy on Trump, but a simultaneous effort for Soros's money and his influential groups to take down at the same time Soros's business rivals in Ukraine? And were they buying off the Obama government to do it? Ladies and gentlemen, the clues are everywhere. The evidence is